Is assignment number 4 for Ag 272. Cole McMahon and James Manson have picked the article Is America Running Out of Farmland by Paul Gottlieb for our presentation. The article focuses on the increasing size of urban centers due to population growth resulting in the decreasing availability of prime farmland in the United States. The article defines prime farmland as land that has the combination of soil properties, growing season, and moisture supply needed to produce sustained high yields of crops in an economic manner if it's treated and managed accordingly to acceptable farming methods. By this definition, 23% of non-federal open land in the United States qualified as prime farmland in 2010, whether or not it was used to grow crops. With the continuing growth trend projection, it suggests that prime agricultural land would completely be eliminated in the year 2572, making sustainability absolutely impossible. Factors that play into the decrease in farmland include housing construction, city amenities, highway and street construction, decentralization trends, and industrial buildings. Farmland preservation is a potential solution for a range of efficiency and equity problems that include the future of global food security. The goal would be to raise concerns about future availability of food and create political attention, leading toward more efficient, more compact cities.
Underlying economics. The biggest and most prevalent fact in the market for agricultural land is that land in general has a perfectly inelastic supply. As shown in the graph, the supply of land in general is constant. The perfectly inelastic nature of land means that a change in price has no effect on the quantity available in the market, simply because the amount of land cannot increase or decrease. We will see how demand comes into play on this graph later on. Another one of the things which makes the market for land so high priced and in demand is stated in our studied article, and it says that if land could move in a costless way back and forth between urban and rural uses in response to new market information, then the market will be able to work its way out in a free market fashion. This quote is saying that it isn't easy to convert farmland or any land for that matter into an urban type setting. And on the flip side, it isn't easy to convert urban land back into farmable land, even though that would rarely happen. Ultimately, it just means that once the land has been urbanized, it is gone from agricultural use. The percentage of usable open area that was prime farmland in 2010 in the US is 23.3%, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, as mentioned earlier. And a study done by Vining, Plout, and Beery in 1977 showed that prime farmland was disproportionately located in or near the nation's largest urban areas. And since 1977, when the study was done, these cities have all continued to sprawl, making the demand for prime farmland very high. The demand curve on this graph was drawn relatively inelastic. This is because changes in price don't have much impact on the overall demand for land because there are so many different parties trying to buy it, including farmers, growing cities, developers, and investors. There are many factors that can make the demand curve shift right to point P2 on the graph. These include an increase in commodity prices or high yields, resulting in farmers having extra cash to invest in land, high investor interest based on speculation, and proximity to urban sprawl, among other things. Along with the economic factors of supply and demand, there are many different political factors that influence the amount of farmland in the U.S. The USDA Farm Service Agency controls the Conservation Reserve Program, which pays farmers yearly rent to not farm environmentally sensitive land. While this program is a plus for the environment, It adds to the trend of decreasing amounts of American farmland. Another policy is the Farmland Protection Policy Act, effective in 1984. Its purpose is to minimize the extent to which federal programs contribute to the unnecessary and irreversible conversion of farmland to non-agricultural uses, and to assure that federal programs are administered in a manner that don't go against state and local policies and programs with the intent of protecting farmland. There is also the American Farmland Trust, a national organization with the mission of protecting farmland, promoting sound farming practices, and keeping farmers on the land. They do this by advocating for programs and policies to permanently protect agricultural land, supporting family farmers and ranchers, developing policies and programs to protect the land, and educating people on the need to protect farmland. North of the border, Saskatchewan has implemented farm ownership guidelines which make it easier for farmers and ranchers to buy land with less outside competition from investors and potential buyers. This is a good policy which allows farmers and ranchers to keep farmland in production and continue their economic contributions. While the threat to American farmland is somewhat speculative, it is something that needs to be continually watched. With the increases in genetically modified crops and better farming practices, it is well within agriculture's reach to feed a prospective 9.7 billion people by 2050. But the risk of continually losing farmland has the ability to take its toll on this. The underlying economic factors influencing the demand for land are never going to go away, and it is well within reason to assume that the demand for land will grow and continue to contribute to America running out of land for production agriculture.
Implications of food. The major implication resulting from a decrease in farmland is the production of food falling behind population growth. Consumers are willing to sacrifice available farmland to be paved over and replaced by roads, golf courses, housing, and parking lots. Development is taking up farmland, forest, and other open space in this decade at twice the rate of the 1980s. Between 1992 and 97, some 16 million acres went into development. This is due to the rapid progress farming technologies have made, making it possible to provide food on less acres. Yet the population growth is and will continue to outdo technology growth. With the decrease in supply of farmland, the value is only bound to increase as more investors flock to the sector in search of profits from both increased agricultural production and the appreciation of farmland prices. But this is bad for smaller operations or younger farmers who are trying to acquire more land to remain competitive and profitable. With more stress put into farmland soil to meet demands, more countermeasures need to be taken to sustain higher yielding crops. Without chemical and fertilizer, soil degradation occurs. Phosphorus and nitrogen needed to create fertilizer is mined and has a limited world supply. These raw materials continue to rise in price with increased use, and we can expect the same with all chemicals. To meet the need of global population growth, we need to expand farmland instead of continuing on our trend of decreasing it.